The Blue Oval is in some deep problems, and by the looks of it, they'll just keep sinking deeper and deeper. Countless reliability issues, problems with marketing their vehicles, as well as a terrible approach towards its fans, have led Ford to lose $1.2 billion for the third quarter of 2024, a number that is seemingly going to only keep rising. These years of misdoing have brought the biggest U.S. manufacturer to the crossroads: evolve or die. To better understand the significance of the situation that the Blue Oval is in, as well as answer if we're about to witness the end of Ford, let's check out how Ford shocked the car market with a major screw-up. Reliability is dubious at best. One might love or hate Ford, but you cannot deny that its image amongst car buyers has been proportionally failing with Ford's reliability. Realistically speaking, most Fords nowadays are really a cat-in-a-bag situation. You don't know what you're getting. Numerous owners of the 1.5, 2.0, and 2.7 EcoBoost have mentioned premature wear of the timing belt due to the wet belt system. This is because of the same oil type, made by a different manufacturer than the one Ford recommends, uses a different chemistry for it, which wears down the belt and can lead to engine damage in the long run. In addition to that, the Maverick Hybrid's 2.5-liter engine has been known to crack and leak oil onto the exhaust manifold, which can lead to fires, something you really don't want in a hybrid. Then, there are transmission issues, with Ford's 10-speed auto being one of the worst, least potent, and least reliable ones in the business, much worse than the industry standard, that is ZF. Also, all Fords suffer all kinds of electronic gremlins, which, albeit not deal-breaking, is still highly irritating. And sure, you might argue that Ford is still better than its domestic rivals, such as GM and Stellantis brands, which would be true, but the problem is Ford isn't competing exclusively against them. Ford is also fighting the Japanese, the Koreans, the Europeans, and recently, the Chinese, and all of them seem to have a better grasp of quality and reliability than the Blue Oval. Speaking of quality keeps getting worse. Ford has established itself as a staple of the U.S. market, which is why we're very weirded out by their complete lack of quality and interest towards improving it, especially in a day and age where all of its competitors are trying to become as high quality for the lowest price possible. Seriously, just take a look at the Ford Escape and compare it to something like a Hyundai Tucson. Can you even comprehend that the Tucson, which offers higher interior quality, much better technology, and is far more beautiful, costs exactly the same as that dated Escape's interior? No, and the worst thing is that they came up practically in the same time. Furthermore, it's not like the quality of any of its other products is any better. Heck, even Ford's breadwinner, the F-150, has had questionable interior quality. And with the recent departure of the Nissan Titan, it has undeniably become the worst in terms of both interior material quality and ergonomics. In addition to that, the build quality has also become catastrophic too. The parts are made as cheaply as possible, made to a subpar standard, and then installed very questionably, which all results in a less than ideal level of quality. In addition, the quality control is pretty abysmal too, and you can see new Fords, especially the cheaper ones, but also present on the more upmarket models, being fitted with misaligned parts and trim, panel discoloration, problems with the suspension and engine from the get-go, and all kinds of issues that might await you because of Ford's piss-poor approach towards making a car in itself. Overall, pretty terrible for a company that made cars for the honest working man. That said, it's not like the honest working man should care about that, because he simply can't afford a new Ford. Which brings us to the next point. Pricing is getting out of hand. $30,000 for a base model Ford Escape. 30 grand! Can you even believe that? Ford has really gotten a hang of overvaluing its vehicles, especially if you take into consideration how poorly built they are, how severely under-equipped they come, and how terribly mediocre they are in every single way. In fact, we've got an even better allegory for you. The Ford Maverick, the pickup truck of the rich soccer mom trying to blend in. This once affordable pickup truck, which was offered to us as a cheap do-it-all vehicle, has, with the recent redesign, become quite an expensive vehicle. The truck now starts from $26,400 without additional fees, or a more realistic $28,000 with everything accounted for, and that's without the dealer markups. And it can rise up to $42,000. To put things into perspective, you can get a Ford Ranger XLT with quite a bit of additional optional kit for less money, and the Lariat starts from just $3,000 more. Heck, the only really well-priced vehicle in Ford's lineup are the F-150 and the Ranger, and the latter isn't selling well because Ford keeps being extremely ignorant to the demands of the mid-sized truck crowd, which is growing rapidly. However, none of these are the biggest and stupidest vehicles in Ford's lineup. No, that would be its electric vehicles, which are very expensive, don't deliver, especially not compared to the competition, and are entirely conflicted about what they want to be. A Ford of the future, or a Ford of the past, all while costing both the buyer and Ford a ton of money. That brings us to the next point. The EV lineup is bleeding Ford dry. Ford just doesn't understand the EV market. They just don't. Really, if they did, they certainly wouldn't have sold a rebadged Volkswagen EV crossover as the Ford Capri, which used to be one of Europe's favorite pony cars. If they wanted to turn the Capri electric, they could have offered it as an EV sports car, which could have brought in quite a bit of buyers. But the Capri isn't really our concern, as it is currently exclusively in Europe. No, our concern is the Ford Mustang Mach-E and the F-150 Lightning. First of all, the Mach-E, which has been on the market for 5 years now, has performed terribly from the get-go. In 5 years, it sold around 150,000 units, which might not seem bad, but it's almost 10 times less than the Model Y, which sold a whopping 1.22 million units in 2023 alone. This is because Ford tried to focus on the Mustang crowd with the Mach-E, without realizing that, Mustang fans are amongst the least interested crowd when it comes down to transitioning to EVs, and they became especially disinterested when Ford slapped their beloved namesake to nothing else but a crossover. In addition to that, their second EV model is the Ford F-150 Lightning, which targeted the pickup truck crowd. You know, the same guys that couldn't accept that diesel is going the way of the dodo. Well, with all of this in mind, it's no wonder that EVs are literally a big hole in Ford's budget, and it's no real surprise that Ford lost $66,000 per EV on average in the first quarter of 2023. In our opinion, Ford should really work towards offering a more mundane and, better-priced EV lineup for those of us that don't crave attention like a 20-something yuppie and just need a good and cheap way of going from A to B. But Ford isn't going to do that. You know why? Ford's over-reliance on a few models. Ford has completely lost the plot in the past few years when it comes down to their model lineup. The company has completely alienated the European market, has been getting increasingly lower sales in the Chinese and Middle Eastern markets because of customer dissatisfaction of the model lineup, and are continuously losing sales in the US because people are just not willing to pay a fortune for its weird lineup. Tell us, why would you buy a Ford Escape for $30,000 when you could buy a Toyota RAV4 for the same amount of money and get an infinitely more reliable and more desirable vehicle that will hold its value twice as well? And that's not the only problem. You're more traditional and crave a good old US-made hatchback or sedan? Well, you're out of luck. Ford doesn't offer any non-SUV model whatsoever, and that wouldn't be that big of a deal if the lineup of SUVs was even remotely interesting. But it isn't. It's just a mishmash of bland and forgettable. Well, except for the Mustang, that is, which is probably one of the few Fords that are reasonably priced. Hence, why it continues to sell despite being a very traditional pony car. The F-150 is also a reasonably priced vehicle, but that's only because of its competition, which is more expensive without any real reason for being so. And it's because Ford knows that. If they were to increase the pricing, the already shaky fan base would definitely stream towards its competition. In fact, without the F-150 and the Mustang, Ford's presence on the US market would be reduced to nothing. But we're at least glad that the Blue Oval still has some semblance of logic and keep offering a lineup of traditional vehicles for us traditional buyers. You know, unlike Stellantis. But they will need to either traditionalize or radicalize its lineup if they intend on surviving the upcoming decade.